Every successful entrepreneur is a dreamer. We all dream big dreams, and we have visions of standing on our own mountaintop. Translating dreams into vision is pretty easy, but in order for vision to become reality, you gotta turn it into strategy. Strategy is only as successful as the tactics that are executed upon, and only when those tactics are repeated consistently is true competitive advantage gained. Every leader should seek to create a sustainable competitive advantage in order to win in their marketplace. Most of you don't have one. Welcome to the Next Level Executive Podcast, a show dedicated to dentists who want to evolve from a clinician who owns a practice into an executive who leads a business. I'm your host, Perrin Desports. If you own a practice that generates over $1 million in revenue and you're wondering what's next, you're in the right place. Lou Gerstner is a name probably none of you have ever heard of. He was a very successful executive at McKinsey, American Express, and RJR Nabisco, then was tapped seemingly out of nowhere to lead a failing American icon of a company, IBM, in 1993. He wrote a book about that experience called Who Says Elephants Can't Dance?, titled as such because it had been stated that reviving IBM would be harder than teaching an elephant to dance. Over a decade into the early 2000s, Gerstner led a remarkable turnaround. None of you nor I will ever run a company the size of IBM, but there are several lessons we can take from his tenure there that are worth noting. At his opening press conference, an industry journalist asked Gerstner what his vision was for the company. He quickly replied, "The last thing IBM needs right now is a vision." He knew that the company was paralyzed by a lack of internal teamwork, lofty abstract ideas, and a lack of basic execution. Instead of a grand vision, he wanted immediate action, a customer-driven focus, and operational improvement. Think about that for a second. Is your business paralyzed by a lack of internal teamwork, lofty abstract ideas, and a lack of basic execution? Instead of a grand vision, do you really need immediate action, a customer-driven focus, and operational improvement? I'll put this a different way. Is your vision and your strategy getting in the way of your tactics and your execution? In a world of idea guys and endless possibilities, you don't need to spend days designing some grand strategy. You need to focus on a relentless quest for execution. You don't get paid for strategy. The money lands in your bank when you execute on tactics. I love all of your entrepreneurial spirit, and I share mine alongside you. Hell, I have part of my program called Entrepreneurial Leadership for a reason. But too many entrepreneurs fail because they can't translate vision into execution. They fail because they're not operators at heart. You can certainly have people who work for you who are primarily focused on delivering operational excellence so that you don't have to be the person doing so yourself. Nothing wrong with that. But in our collective emerging group practice space, you as the founder simply cannot abdicate the ultimate responsibility of running an operationally sound business. Gerstner knew that immediately. IBM's problems were internally generated, not externally oriented. How much of your business's lack of performance is due to a lack of execution versus external market forces beyond your control. Again, don't you really need immediate action, a customer-driven focus, and operational improvement? Vision only becomes successful strategy when you can execute repeatedly on the tactics required. In order to compete and win, you have to out-execute your competitors. In a commodity world, you have to be your own competitive advantage. The reason I'm banging on this so relentlessly is because I hear far too many founders complain about their underperforming business, then start talking about the merits of their grand strategy. When I ask about tactics and execution, their answer is inevitably something along the lines of, hey, I'll leave that to my team. The hell you do. The last thing you need right now is a strategy. Look, I get it. No business is easy. Healthcare services can be a bear of a business to own and operate due to revenue challenges around insurance reimbursement, coupled with a customer base that doesn't truly understand what you do and all too often seemingly doesn't appreciate it. That being said, the fundamentals of your business model are incredibly sound and very secure on a forward-looking basis. More on that in an upcoming episode. If the fundamentals of the model and the industry are sound, then there most likely are no seismic competitive disadvantages or uncontrollable external threats that would render your business unviable. So, I go back to the fundamentals, but now shifting to the fundamentals of your practice or group. What are they? Patient experience, recruiting, skill development, turning collections quickly into cash, new patient lead flow, case acceptance, scheduling effectiveness, for specialty practices, referral generation. And I know you can think of many others that I've left off here, but executing at a high level on the fundamentals is worth 4 to 5 points of revenue growth that your whiz-bang strategy seems unable to deliver. You don't need to spend time developing some new strategy that's never been tried before. You need to see your business clearly for what it is right here, right now, today, then look under the hood for where it needs to be improved. The best performing businesses mostly out-execute their peers. You should adopt that mentality. I love technology as much as the next guy, but you don't need to spend your time getting lost in AI wonderland. Technology is an accelerant to what you already do well. Leave it to companies like Dentsply Sirona or Dental Intelligence or Pearl or others to be the ones making the time and dollar investments, then figure out how to best deploy their technology to further improve your level of execution in that area. Your dentistry business is certainly different from my coaching business, but the guidance I'm sharing with you is the same as what I've set forth for myself. The fundamentals of my business are pretty simple and require consistent execution. One of those fundamentals is the depth of subject matter and thought leadership in this podcast. I obviously recrafted and relaunched it a few months ago, and I appreciate the positive feedback I continue to receive from all of you on that effort. Like when SMaC says, thought-provoking, you'll hear nowhere else. I love this podcast. Perrin brings to light a lot of the topics that people don't always feel comfortable talking about, but need to hear. I learned so much from him. I'm pretty sure I know who that SMaC is, so sincere thanks to her for those words of praise. If you're enjoying the thought leadership I share, please scroll down on the app and on your phone and tap the 5-star button. Your rating helps get the show ranked for others who are searching for this kind of content. So if my thought leadership makes a difference for you, just know your rating makes a huge difference for me. In addition to the podcast, One of the other fundamentals of my business is the 2 working group sessions I host every year, one in the spring and the other in the fall, around the leadership roles of Chief Clinical Officer and Chief Executive Officer. The title of the role may be part of the C-suite, but don't kid yourself. These roles live and die on the fundamentals of execution. I know that my group makes the time and effort to be there, so I'm committed to delivering content, tools, frameworks, and any bit of application that helps them lead and run a better business. I'll be hosting my executive group for our CEO working group session in Austin in a few weeks. This is my annual 2-day deep dive into leadership and to how to actually become a more effective executive of the business we already own. Honestly, I love getting the group together because I enjoy each and every one of them so much, but also because the session forces me to dive deep into my 3 decades of experience in leadership and entrepreneurship. We all learn better in an environment like this. One of the books I've asked them to read is by Jim Collins. Probably all of you know Collins because you've read Good to Great, just like every other business owner on the face of the planet. However, that's not the book I asked them to read. Good to Great, Built to Last, and How the Mighty Fall are all great books in a series by Collins, but they're all really about the enterprise-level businesses themselves. I've asked my group to read Great by Choice because it deals more with the individuals who led those businesses. We are all the straw that stirs the drink in our business, so leadership begins on a true individual basis. Great by Choice is more oriented to the leaders and the choices they make that leads the organizational greatness. It's a tremendous book still, even 15 years after its original publication date. One of the many lessons in that book is one that I'm going to share in conclusion with you here. And Collins calls it developing your own SMaC recipe. SMaC is SMaC, and it stands for specific, methodical, and consistent. The context of the chapter is that he and his research team thought their voluminous research would return that those great companies and their leaders would be more innovative than their industry counterparts. What they found was dramatically otherwise. The successful companies were actually less innovative. That's not to say that they weren't innovative, they were, but only up to a point of staying relevant and competitive. Collins's point was that once a company understood its strategy, it was relentless in its focus on tactical execution. Their tactical plans were highly specific, incredibly methodical in their clarity, and being easily understood by everyone involved, and then rigorously consistent in their execution year after year. You probably haven't read the book, Great by Choice. You should. But maybe you've heard a similar phrase from Jeff Bezos of Amazon. Focus on the things that don't change. When you're clear about the fundamentals of your business, you don't get distracted by shiny objects that aren't part of your SMaC recipe. You realize that the last thing you need right now is a grand strategy. What you do need is to focus on the things that don't change. Being great at execution is hard. It's often messy. And dealing with people problems can be like having 50 children. It's exasperating and will wear you out. We all have our bad days, those days when we just want to be done with it all, to let someone else deal with the drama and the messes. Those days when our commitment is broken and we end up asking ourselves the question, should I stay or should I go? If you're wondering what's next for you and your business, the answer's waiting for you on the Next Level Executive Podcast.